Do you have a passionate message, the solution to a problem, a new book or product launch? This channel interviews the movers and shakers in their niche. Watch the shows on this channel and be inspired, or connect with the opportunities that offer a solution to your problem. PSI TV gives content creators a TV experience, increasing their visibility to a new audience and allowing them to demonstrate their authority on their subject matter to you. Beyond ads, biz brands can also have a channel presence with their content. We are the Netflix of biz brands. Today, my guest is Joseph Lenard. He's an author and political activist. He has been writing most of his life and has finally published his book, which he dubs as being a book in a book and a blog in a book. Now, before I share Joseph with you, I just want to say I am old school journalist, okay? I was a freelance contributor in the 1990s to the Tampa Tribune before they closed down, and a columnist for an international paper prior to that. I was never on staff at any of these new houses, which meant I was untouched by the claim of producing anything less than objective content. I maintain my press credentials and I'm able to share content that you may or may not agree with, even my own personal opinion. And I hope that you are as open-minded to receive information and filter it through whatever perspective you ascribe to. Feel free to disagree or agree with my guest. And I will warn you that some of his belief positions are not the generally held opinions. However, he deserves to be heard because that is old school journalism. And that's what PSI TV is all about. Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you for having me, Trudy. I really appreciate this.
You're absolutely welcome, my dear. And your book, Terror Strikes, the name actually is quite scary. Your book, Terror Strikes, has been dubbed a book in a book and a blog in a book. What do you mean by that, Joseph?
Well, of course, the book in a book is a tried and true old style method of delivering a story. My character, Martin, is a journalist, a Detroit newspaper man. He decides to write a book called Terrorist Tracks. So we follow him through his writing his book in my book, but it's also a new, innovative approach. I'm a former IT guy, and I don't like following rules. You know, writing has usually a lot of rules you're supposed to follow. Well, I like pushing back on the box. So I decided, since being an IT guy, I blogged before the term was ever invented, long before the internet as it exists now even was created. Way back when you used to have a 300 baud modem, you know, those squawking modems back and forth, and you trade numbers with your friends to bulletin board services and upload and download things. So I go way back, and anybody under 40 though now doesn't know life without the internet. So I thought, why not innovate and put not just the book within the book, but a blog within the book. And Martin's 9/11 blog that he wrote after 9/11, a couple of years after 9/11, he pulls back up again to use as reference material for his book. So I share Martin's blog with the reader, and I hope to start a new trend in publishing, because again, blogging is here to stay, blogging and vlogging. So I hope people will enjoy that new approach, that new angle, because this is a book like you've never read, and that's just one reason why.
Okay, all right. Now, Joseph, you've been a political activist most of your life. Has any of that experience influenced your writing, Terror Strikes?
Well, yes and no. I mean, there are some sub-themes and subsections to the book. There are some political sections, because you can't have an honest book about terrorism called Terror Strikes and not deal in both the religious and political aspects of why do they want to kill us. So yes, there are political aspects, and yes, some of my political activism is brought about a part of this book. And like you said earlier, you can agree or disagree. It doesn't matter. It's a fiction book, although it's really fiction. It's part historical fact and part fiction weaved together.
Ah, okay, good point. History and fiction weave together. All right. So this space of journalism has been interestingly changing over time, Joseph, and modern journalism has become very politically influenced. So today there's unquestionably left-leaning media and right-leaning media. Now, how has your ability to share your message about this book been received by various media platforms, social media, television, radio, whatever?
Well, me and my publisher, the book has just come out. So we're early on in this process. So hopefully maybe you can have me back at the beginning of next year and we can discuss this further to see how that shakes out. So I hope it will be received well. And I thank independent stations and people like you for willingness to show both sides and be a true journalist rather than a pundit activist like most of the media is today. And I'll share regarding social media something that's unique to me and 199 other people out of the 300 plus million Americans. I've experienced cancel culture, censorship firsthand back in 2016 via Twitter. I am one of what's called the Mighty 200, and you probably haven't heard about that. But I am part of the whole Russian collusion delusion narrative. I was part of the start of that. In 2016, Hillary Clinton and Politico wrote a hit piece about me and 199 other Americans and tried to get us permanently banned from Twitter. Well, till this day, I'm still shadow banned on Twitter, but I am still there because I refuse to concede any ground to the debate. We have to have an open, honest, back and forth debate. But yeah, out of 300 plus million Americans, I was targeted by Hillary Clinton as a supposed Russian asset. The whole Russian bots that we're somehow on Putin's payroll, the start of the whole Russian collusion delusion, which now Hillary and the DNC has been fined for, proving the fact that it was all a dream. They bought and paid for the fake Steele dossier. So yeah, I've been part of that side of things, the left side of things, trying to silence me and or use me as part of the Russian collusion narrative.
Wow. Well, I know that just in my own experience, I'm very much Christian, and I couldn't get a couple of PR agents I tried to get to do stuff for me, and they wouldn't touch me because I was publicly Christian. So I applaud you. Keep pushing along. So PSI TV has no public political opinion. We tend to interview entrepreneurs, coaches, authors, and you are an author. But Terror Strikes does have a very clear political overtone. Tell us about Terror Strikes, the book itself. I know you did mention a little bit of it, but what will folks find and learn when they read this book?
Well, again, I did mention there is a historical aspect of it. There are several chapters. I try to weave a story back and forth so a reader doesn't get hung up on one particular thing for too long in case it disinterests them. Where there's the storyline with Martin and his family, we'll get to know him. And you mentioned you're a Christian, I'm a Christian. We get to know his family values as we go through the story. And there are interspersed chapters that deal with historical fiction. So some people will learn a lot of things they didn't know about terrorism in general and or atrocities besides the Holocaust that have occurred in the world in the name of genocide. So there's that. And as far as my political background or perspective, the book comes from a constitutionalist perspective, an originalist, federalist bent, the foundation of our nation. We have strayed far from that. But I don't want to go too far on that. But the main thing is the history intertwined. And again, like I say in the book, there's a section about the book, behind the book, where I mentioned even some of the opinions in this book aren't even my own. It is a fictional piece. They're meant to spur debate around the water cooler.
Okay. So let's tap into the aspect of the book that speaks to suicide prevention, particularly among first responders, former military. What led you in that direction, Joseph?
Well, I know people that we've lost because of that. And suicide knows no politics. It's not a left thing. It's not a right thing. There's no politics involved generally. I myself am a suicide attempt survivor from 2004. And while I'm certainly not proud of that, I'm not happy about talking about it, but I feel compelled to share that. You know, it's like the Pantene thing. You tell two friends, they tell two friends. Pretty soon it's a movement. Well, this is about being a Clarence, spreading the word. Remember the movie It's a Wonderful Life? Clarence saves George, shows him what his life is and what the world would have been without him. Well, you can be somebody's Clarence. Now, the person's life may not be as dramatic as George's. You may not have prevented a pharmacist from destroying his life and the life of a family from poisoning themselves. But think of this, if I save one life, then they save a life. And that person's child then goes on to cure cancer. That child wouldn't have been born without that line of events. Saving someone's life, who saves another, who then potentially cures cancer. It's a butterfly effect, if you will. It's very important. And a friend of mine who I met while I was in the hospital recovering from my suicide attempt, his name is unimportant, influenced the flashback chapter in here. And unfortunately, we lose 22 vets on average a day to suicide. But of course, suicidal thoughts are not limited to just vets or first responders. Someone you know may be contemplating suicide. You need to reach out to your friends and family. Save a life.
Powerful. Okay, so Joseph, is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Yes, there's a very important closing point for my book here. If you think during the Wuhan virus lockdowns, terrorism disappeared, you're wrong. It hasn't gone away. It's just that the media has focused on the COVID and the lockdowns. I would like you to do a favor for me. Go to Google. I usually use DuckDuckGo and Jibberoo for my search, but Google alerts, google.com/alerts, set up alert with the name of my book, Terror Strikes. Now, that's not a backdoor play to get a daily reminder of my book in your inbox. That's not what this is about. terror strikes alert, and make sure to check a daily digest so you're not getting inundated. But you will then start to see daily updates of the terrorism that's going on around the world that you don't know about just because it hasn't been in the news. It hasn't gone away. It's still here. And like I say in my book, coming to a city near you, very likely. And being an ostrich won't protect you from the oncoming train that's about to bowl you over, possibly.
Oh, Well, there you have it, folks. Terror Strikes, book by Joseph Lenard. You can get more information at terrorstrikes.info. Wow. Thank you for sharing all of that today, Joseph, especially your story about being a suicide survivor. Wow. Terror
Not only
strikes.
that, I am also a leukemia survivor. You can tell by my bald head. That wasn't a choice. It came out.
Terrorstrikes.info, Joseph Lenard, author of the book Terror Strikes. Thank you so much for being my guest today, Joseph.
Take care. God bless. Have a great day.